Hello and welcome to The Enthusiasm Project, Season 2, Episode 4. And today we're just going to jump straight back into our discussion about business and all that kind of stuff. I've got my super special guest, which might as well just be called a co-host at this point, the one and only Heather Ramirez.
I was picking something out of my
You were.
teeth,
I wasn't going to
sorry.
mention that, but you mentioned it.
Hello.
How have you been?
Very good.
So this week, this isn't really going to be different, but it's going to be a little bit different in that rather than sort of having a structure of things we want to talk about and like questions to ask, this week we're kind of just going to hash out the next step of our plan towards starting a business, which was, the goal of season 2 of this podcast is to kind of chronicle my journey, starting a business. What does that mean? We're at the point now where we actually want to take some concrete steps. And I think that I am happy about the position that we're in because I have just enough ignorance and naivete to want to just jump into things, and you have just enough experience to go like, great, also don't die. And so I think that teaming up is a very good thing to do. So we have been on our own because it's all the only stuff we ever talk about is talking about this and throwing these ideas back and forth. And we were at a friend's wedding last weekend, and everyone's talking about their kids and having babies and all that kind of stuff. And I asked if you wanted to have a business baby.
Yeah, and I freaked out.
Why did you freak out?
Because this is the thing I've been wanting since day one.
What is the thing?
Starting a business with you.
So
I wanted that since literally day one. I remember even asking you, like, do you want to live in the desert forever?
Oh, yeah, like the day we met.
Yeah.
Huh? I do remember that. And then you now live in the desert.
And now I live in the desert, which is fine. But the whole point was I wanted to start a business with you.
Well, yeah, and that's, obviously it's the same thing that happens all the time. You have this idea, and then eventually I meet you there when, like,
always
my horse crosses the finish line.
Always.
And really what it is it just sort of comes down to right now you're operating your business that you've had for the past 3.5 years as a sole proprietor, right? Yeah. And so like what is that?
So basically as a sole proprietor, I'm doing business under my name, Heather Ramirez.
So
any kind of like, there is no really structure aside from a fictitious business name where people can like write me checks to Shared Spark Media, but everything like taxes still go through me, and everything still goes through like my name.
And since it's sole, like you obviously like you
there's
don't,
only one person.
Yeah, you can't have employees or a team or anything like that.
Yeah, because it's under my social security number.
And so you've thought about starting an LLC in the past, right?
Yeah, I think that's always been the next natural step.
And like a limited liability corporation, what are the, like, why would you even want to do that if things are working fine as a sole proprietor?
Well, basically what it does is it creates a social security number it creates an entity, and the entity gets its own social security number. So the benefits would be that, if something were to happen to my business, I wouldn't be liable for it. The business would be liable for it.
If something happened, you got like in a lawsuit or whatever, then the business is at risk, but you personally are protected.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can have a team, you can hire people, you could have.
Yeah, because all of that paperwork and all of that stuff is, you need an EIN to do stuff like that.
But an LLC is still much simpler than like starting a corporation or something like that.
Not really. It's just a different like structure.
But in terms of taxes and stuff, it's way simpler, right?
To be honest, I don't know, because I've only looked into LLC, and Carissa, my business accountability partner, who is a business coach, she was just like, LLC is the way to go for me. And I was like, okay, then I'm not going to bother with these other things. So I didn't even look into it.
Well, and
maybe that's my ignorance.
In my research, it's way simpler than starting a corporation, because corporation, then you deal with corporate taxes, and it gets way more complicated, whereas all the income for the LLC still ends up going just to your tax. You're not getting taxed on your corporation, and then you get it as income, so essentially you're paying double taxes.
Doing your homework already.
Oh, so much homework. But anyway, so you had been thinking of starting it, but you've been operating fine as a sole proprietor for the time being. There's been no need to it because there's a fee. You got to pay a $70 filing fee, which isn't a big deal, but you also have to pay an $800 annual, just I don't know, fee to have it. In addition to, of course, you got to pay taxes and stuff on all your income like normal. So it's just kind of been like, why spend the extra money? You're not operating a business that really puts you at any risk right now of being, sued or anything. So it hasn't made, there hasn't been a reason to do that. And then for me, starting my own thing, like kind of like I said in a past episode, one of the biggest things was like doing my first official brand thing that was like real official with a bigger company, Epidemic Sound, when they were kind of asking for, hey, how do we, pay you? They were asking basically for my EIN, and I didn't have one. And they're based in Sweden. So I was like, I have a social security number. And they're like, we're not in the US. And, we were able to work it out basically as a sole proprietor. But that was when the affiliate or the brand person was like, hey, if you've ever thought about starting something official, this could be a great time to do that. And that's what kind of kicked it into gear of like, oh, doing something official, sole proprietor. I'm not really doing services and client stuff. Essentially what I need right now to start is just a way to manage money that's coming in from like my channel and those kind of sources. And then most importantly, have it be a foundation to grow from there. So as time goes on, I can add more services, I can add products, I can take on whatever I want to do. It can go that way. And so in my thoughts of looking through this, it just didn't make sense to imagine a point a year from now where I'm going like, hey, I'm going to go pay my $800 to, register renew my LLC. And then you're like, yay, I'm going to also pay my $800. Right. Especially to the point if we're married in the future. It just seems dumb. So it made more sense that our little business entity belongs to both of us.
Right. And I think that we had to wait until we got engaged. I was just always waiting. Because it doesn't make sense. I knew you were going to start a business at some point.
Well, I mean, and there's, for me, notorious control freak, I just always have thought of like, well, it'll be my thing under my name and I
was like, you know what? It would break my heart every time you said that. Like, oh, I'm going to start my own business. It's going to be my own thing. Even though, I would always try to help. And you're like, no, but are you like taking away from my experience of going through it all and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to bring this up anymore. And I'm sure he'll meet me. He'll meet me here.
And he did.
Yeah.
Eventually.
It's fine. You'll get there.
So basically we've decided to finally do ShareSpark as an LLC.
Have we? I know we're doing an LLC together, but I think I was drunk when you brought this up.
Yeah, you were. Like, you cried a little bit.
I know. Because you have no idea. It's a dream come true.
Well, I mean,
I think like whatever we're going to make is going to be absolutely amazing. And honestly, I think it's going to be better than anything I could have done by myself.
Well, so I mean, from a practical standpoint, kind of this is where we're going. We've sort of assessed my needs of right now. They're pretty simple. I'm building a foundation. On your end, you have more of an established business experience. Like this would also be the thing where like it's your income, right? So like it's also how you manage the money that you pay for your life with every month. Right now, all my quote unquote business income is just supplemental to like my actual day job. Whereas for you, it is your day job. So, we have different perspectives on it a little bit. And, just thinking an LLC has to have a name. It's literally like step 2 in the process of like, go here and get the forms. And then you have to have a name. You have to register the name. So what name do you want? And obviously like my thing would just be like Enthusiasm Project LLC, but like, okay, fine. Why not just like, you can have ShareSpark be an LLC and then like the Enthusiasm Project is just part
like
of
program
that.
Of it, yeah.
And ShareSpark is the overarching thing.
I mean, that's what I would want.
It's the simplest, cleanest. Oh, because you were making fun of me for wanting everything to be mine, and
I was like, oh, he's probably.
And you want it to be yours.
He's probably. Well, I was convinced that you were like not gonna want it to be something I came up with. I thought you'd want to do it together.
Oh, well, I mean, if we had some amazing idea that was like the Tom and Heather Collective LLC or whatever, sure, that'd be great. But like, you already have an established thing as ShareSpark. So I'm not into it reinventing the wheel if we don't need to. I hope you know, I've also always thought that it's just like, it's an awesome name. It explains everything. Share your story, spark your potential. You're real good at branding, marketing, developing all that kind of stuff. And I'm happy to go with what is already working. Like,
awesome. Well, cool. Why are you laughing? I mean, I wasn't gonna, force it.
well, I mean, is that your number one?
Yeah.
So if you could pick anything in the world, that's what you would pick?
I mean, that's what that's what I already picked. There's no way I would have came up with something else. Are you kidding?
Spark Share.
No.
Spark Share.
It was funny because Tom and I went to a vegan festival earlier,
Yeah.
and I went to one of the booths to get a grilled cheese, and I used my business credit card since we were vlogging.
Right.
Or not credit card, but my debit card
Right.
for a business account. And it's under Share Spark Media. So when they called the name, when the grilled cheese was done, it was like, Share Spark Media. And I was like, hey, what up?
That's cool, though. Like,
Yeah, it was cool. He was like, Share Spark. And I was like, that's me.
I mean, it's a vegan festival. Like, there's probably someone legally named Share Spark there anyway. Forest Fire. No, Forest Fire.
Yeah, but it's not vegan.
I was thinking like Forest Rain or Forest Fire or whatever. So okay. So we made this conclusion.
So the name is done.
Which is funny because I came into this literal conversation we're having right now thinking like, yeah, the name is done. We figured it out. And you're like, oh, is it? I didn't want to assume. I know what I want, and every single time you always meet me to where like what I always want, but I also don't. I know that if I try to force it, you get real finicky. So heck yeah, I do.
Yeah, and that's fine. So I'm not. That's why I just wanted to confirm. Is this the name that we're using? Because if it is, yes.
Yeah. Well, my big thing is I just want projects that I do, like the YouTube channel and the podcast and things like that, to be able to be the thing that I name them.
Right.
But this has zero effect on that.
Yeah,
what it affects is if someone goes, hey, we want to pay you $10 million to keep being awesome, I can go, cool.
This is like such a big deal. Like this is literally the equivalent of a child.
I mean, we're creating an entity.
And we are the owners.
Ironically, though, this entity exists to give us money.
But it has its own social security number. Isn't that crazy?
It does. It's a thing. People could sue it.
I know.
Just like a child.
We're gonna like feed it and help it grow.
Give it nutrients.
I'm so excited.
Pay taxes for it. Discipline it when it gets out of hand. Mm-hmm. Right. Just it's exact same thing.
It's gonna be our hopes and dreams and everything.
Yeah, we're gonna put the guilt on it when it doesn't meet our expectations. Quarter 2, Share Spark. Go to your room.
Quarter 2.
So we have going
right.
down the list. I have this is where I actually should have had my iPad in here because I had all my bookmarks for like the stuff I had looked up.
Why don't you go get it?
I should go get it, but this is.
You can go get. I'll entertain him with some stories.
Okay. Well, I was laughing at the story of the iPad, why it's not here because it was dying. I plugged it in to charge it, and then she's like, oh. She walked over immediately, unplugged the iPad, plugged in her phone, and was like, I unplugged your iPad. And I was like, oh. Was somebody a big sister growing up or what?
I didn't even ask. I just unplugged it.
And it was just funny because it popped into my head when you were like, yeah, you're going to meet me there because I want this. And I was like, okay, I'm fussy too, but like you, super big sister. So I'm going to go grab that. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Awesome. All right. So we have gone down the checklist of, yes, we're starting a business. This is the most exciting thing for me. If it doesn't sound like I'm excited, I am excited. I'm just tired. And so is Ollie. He's excited too. And we've chosen a name. So the next step is going to be a strategy of what we want this to look like. I think by the end of this conversation, what I'd like to get out of it is like goals.
Okay.
Kind of a vision of like what we have a whole year, we have a whole decade, we have a new approach. Like This is a big deal to me because I'm factoring another person, and I felt that shift when we got engaged. I don't know if I
we told me, but I don't think you mentioned it on the podcast.
Yeah, so like people were asking, are things different now that you guys are engaged? Now that you are engaged, and yeah, it is weird to to know that like my paychecks and the success of my business really does affect another person. Like everything, I have to look at everything through that lens now. And by, now we're joining into a business together, really we should be running everything by each other, which we already do. I'm very vocal because Tom is the closest thing to a coworker. But now I'll officially have a coworker. Oh.
Co-partner. Wait, you can't be a co-partner, just partner. Just business partner.
Exactly.
So I think to get to that point, you're good at big picture stuff and I'm good at nuts and bolts things. Like,
yes,
how do we do that?
One of my strengths, one of my weaknesses is poor practical skills.
But but
I'm a great visionary.
Yeah, exactly. And so here's kind of some of the stuff I was looking up because I've been doing all kinds of research into what is best. And this is basically the stuff that popped up about LLCs in California specifically, because California is our state. If you're any kind of business person or whatever, you might be aware of California taxes. They're high. People complain about them all the time. There's not much you can do about that. I freaking love California. I'm not going anywhere else. I don't want to start a business anywhere else. So that's just a limit that we got to do. So here are the 5 steps to starting LLC in California. The first step is literally choosing your name, because you can't do anything until you have a name. So check. Select your LLC's registered agent. So registered agent is, you can pick someone that's basically like who does the paperwork and stuff. You can find someone like an official from the state, or it could literally be any of the people involved in the organization. So I don't know if it could be 2. I looked it up, but now I
just put it under me.
I lost it. So there you go. You can be our registered agent.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to file our articles of organization, which is super simple to kind of get. It's a pain in the butt, but it's essentially just, what is the organization? What do you do? How's it structured? Blah, blah, blah. LLCs, there's no real limit on the number of people who can be involved with it, or partners or whatever. One of the tricky things with LLCs is how long they last. And sometimes, it dissolves if you die, or they only last 70 or 80 years or whatever. And I kind of just figure, we'll just start this now and we will cross those bridges later. If somehow this turns into a thing where other people beyond us are affected, then obviously we want to do something where, God forbid something happens, they're not out of luck or it disappears.
This is a conversation for another
for future time. But it was an interesting thing where it's like, oh, okay, an LLC doesn't continue indefinitely. It's very much tied to the people who put it together. Cool. That's something to be aware of. Then we create an operating agreement, and that's what gets us our EIN. And then you pay the $70, and then you have to pay your $800. I guess that's right. Your $800 annual tax. And there's a step-by-step guide here. But the annual tax, the reason that I'm really fired up about this now is because everything I found says the worst time to start an LLC is October, November, December, the last quarter of the year. And we're in December right now. Lots of things say if you want to start it, jump on it in January, the first quarter of the year. And the reason for that is because of that $800 fee. So if you start at the end of the year, because you're starting it at the end of the year, you're going to have to pay your $800. And then as soon as the next year rolls around, you're going to have to pay another $800. So within the span of just a few months, you're going to end up spending $1,600. Whereas if you wait till January, you just pay that $800 the once for that year. So you save yourself a bunch of money. And I'm all about saving money. Plus, it's almost January, so I want us to get our groundwork done and then just jump on this right away. So that's basically that. And then I don't know, I told you, but I did my little thing where I started being really annoying on Twitter and Instagram, and just literally just asking like people that I know who I respect but aren't massive, like, people that have 10 million subscriber channels and stuff. Not only would they not return my messages, but they have like corporations and things set up. I was looking at people that are a little bit smaller, but who I know do lots of brand work, client work, service things. And I just started messaging them and asking, how do you set things up? And basically all of them have LLCs. It was just kind of the go-to, like, yes, this is the way to do it. This is what you need. And I was like, man, I didn't, because when Epidemic approached me and they were like, where's your number? And I was talking to you about it. And I was like, they want this number. And you were like, that can't be, like, everybody, they do, sponsored things with people all over the place. You're telling me all those people have a thing? it kind of seems like they actually did. I didn't think they did, and you didn't think they did, and it kind of seems like they did. So I didn't realize that, and no one ever tells you that, and especially, in the YouTube world, like, one of the things for whatever reason is just like making YouTube look easy and simple and just like, oh man, like I'm not putting in countless hours behind the scenes on this. And so I haven't seen a lot of people talk about the part that goes into like, oh, this channel that you're watching, like, yeah, here's my like nuts and bolts strategy behind it. Anyway, sort of a tangent, but one of the other things that just led me to like LLC is the right choice for exactly what we need right now. So here we go. Here's something about registered agent. Before filing your articles of organization, you need to choose a registered agent. A California registered agent is a person or company who agrees to accept legal mail, known as service of process, on behalf of your LLC, in case your business gets sued. Your agent should be available during normal business hours, which is, you're way more available during normal business hours than I am. It's a key component to how the court and legal systems work. Can I be my own registered agent? Yes. You have 3 options. You can be your LLC's registered agent, a friend or family member, or you can hire someone. So you kind of fit the bill on there, especially for business hours, which is great. Let's see here. Filing forms. Let's check out our forms. Really, it just kind of gets approved. Like, are you a scam? Or are you not a scam? We're not a scam. You can do... Check this out. Here we go. Here we go. This will be kind of last nuts and bolt, and then we can get into big picture. I've said nuts and bolts like 3 times. You need to choose your LLC identifier. So basically what that means is in your name, you have to have an identification that makes it clear that it's an LLC. And so the most common way people do that is they just do LLC. Yeah. So ShareSpark Media, LLC. And you can do LLC, L period, C period.
Yeah, no.
Which is ugly. You can do LTD Liability Co. You can do Limited Liability Co., LTD Liability Company, or Limited Liability Company. LLC makes the most sense. But you can have all these different options, and it kind of has to be one of them. It can't include any of the following words: Inc., incorporated, corp, corporation, bank, trust, trustee, insurer, insurance company, or any word that suggests your LLC issues insurance policies. You don't do insurance, right?
No.
Home, auto, nothing. Well, good. All right.
All right. Now what?
So it basically means we're in a good spot.
Yes.
We can do this.
We are doing
now.
Yes.
Big picture.
Now big picture.
Paint it, babe.
I don't know. You tell me. You're the one who... I've always had the same vision. So, like, what are you...
What's your vision?
No. What?
I'm talking about for the listener.
Made you go down like the road in the first place?
Well, I mean, we've talked about that on this podcast a few times, but it's so okay. The other day we were talking about when I used to work at Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I was a sign artist at Trader Joe's. Best job ever until it wasn't.
Right.
And I still love Trader Joe's. And I still, there are times where I'm like, man, during the summer vacation, like I should just go be a Trader Joe's sign artist. But Trader Joe's management, at least in our region, sort of took a turn at the time that I worked there, and it was just not ideal working conditions. And one of the things about Trader Joe's is they pay really, really well. And each store has its manager called a captain, and then they have like a first mate, the assistant manager, and all the other full-timer managers, basically called a full-timer if you do that. But Trader Joe's full-time, at least when I worked there, I don't know if it still is the case, was 50 hours a week minimum, moving up, but they paid great. It would start at something like $80,000 a year. You could easily make 6 figures as a full-timer at this grocery store, not even as the manager, just as like an assistant manager. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that without college. So they, just start working at the store straight out of high school, work for a few years, work their way up, be making this great salary, great benefits at this company. The problem was if anything happened where, they got involuntarily transferred, or they just didn't like the working conditions, or they somehow, became injured or old or sick and they couldn't work anymore. I just saw so many people who then the next thing was they got fired from there, and their only other option was to go to like a more traditional grocery store for half the pay or something like that. And what it taught me was, oh, you invested in somebody else and not yourself. And at the time I was going to college, and college is expensive, but the education is an investment in yourself, so no one can take that away. And that was really important. And through work where I'm at now, I get to create stuff on my own, which is really cool. You know, like I work for a school district, I work at a school, but the program I teach within that is all my own. It's almost like a school within a school, but at the same time, it's still, you know, it's like I built something on somebody else's land, kind of. And a few things have just happened throughout this school year where it's really kind of raised the red flag of like, ooh, okay, you are passionate about this, you really care about this, but remember, you are investing in something that's not 100% your own. And so be careful with how much energy you spend towards that. And you then popped in and you were like, you should take that extra energy and invest it in yourself and your own stuff. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And we sort of talked about this before. Right now, like, you know, to be totally honest, I'm feeling really jaded and burnout with teaching a little bit. It's my 10th year. Like, my students are fantastic. You know, I'm lucky. Like,
That's also just, I need to cut in here and say that doesn't mean that Tom is lazy or slacking. He did just get the Riverside County Teacher of the Year. He's absolutely amazing. He works super, super hard.
Yeah, Bus, I put 100% real into my job all the time.
Tom's 100% is like everyone else's 500%. So I just want to make
But
sure.
that's what makes it exhausting, because when I tell people I'm feeling a little burnt out, and part of it is just the time of the school year, like, you know, we're getting to the halfway point and it's, you know, it's just exhausting. It's just a tiring job. It's, you know, I have 200 students and you try to be emotionally present in addition to like trying to just teach them skills. There's also the management. You're dealing with some 13, 14-year-olds that are still sort of figuring out like how to be a human. And, you know, there's just different stuff happening beyond like, hey, let's learn about our subject. And so it can be really exhausting. Anyway, long story, extra long. As time goes on, I think my feelings, you know, I always go back and forth. Sometimes I'm super re-energized and it's the best thing in the world. Other times I'm really jaded. Whatever it is looking ahead. My mom is always big on like, check your retirement. What's in your retirement? To the point where I'm like, why do I have to do this so often? But looking at my like state retirement, it's like, okay, you have 20 or 25 years till you can retire. Cool. Looking at what I do right now, I'm like, I don't want to teach my students' grandkids. Like, maybe not necessarily that I don't want to. I don't want to have to. If I choose to do that, and there are people who work at our district and our school that have been there for 30, 40 years, if that's something because you found the thing and because you want to invest that much in it, I'm on board with that. I don't want that to be the case because I'm like the Trader Joe's full-timer where I'm like, I need to stay here because I have no other options. And so starting a business is my way of investing in myself. It's my way of investing in us. It's my way of just making sure that I can use my time, that I'm in charge as much as possible. And I don't know what that means, but it's just sort of like making sure there are doors open is important so that I don't find myself in a situation where doors are closed. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
So I don't remember what your question was, but that was my answer to your question.
It was like what sent you down the path of thinking about doing an LLC?
Well, it's also, I mean, it is because I'm a control freak, because I want to start things on my own, because I want to be in charge of stuff. And
oh no, I'm excited about it. I think that, you know, you've obviously things are really picking up. I mean, you can have an idea, but to get the validation of, okay, people are subscribing, you have built a community, you're getting paid now. I mean, and this isn't chump change, it's a significant amount of money. You know, taking this step just formalizes whole thing.
The YouTube channel stuff brings nowhere near as much as my actual salary. Obviously, there's no health benefits or anything like that come with it. But the fact that like, just by putting a lot of time, energy, and effort to this thing on the side without really trying to turn it into a money-making thing, it started generating income just organically. Cool. Like, what if effort were put behind that? Like, where would that go? And that's where it's kind of like, oh, okay, I want to just
more strategic about it.
Over the past year, having seen several people's channels just kind of pop in certain ways and seeing some people handle it really well and some people not handle it as well, I have learned, not necessarily that's something that's guaranteed to happen to anybody, but I've learned the value of just that preparation. There was a episode of this podcast that was all about luck is opportunity meets preparation. And the more you can do to be prepared, the more you can do to recognize those scenarios that might present themselves as luck, but it just means you're ready to jump on them and to take advantage of them. And then if I instead of me just doing it in a vacuum, if I'm partnering up, with like my literal life partner, then it just sort of seems like a very strong thing.
I'm very excited.
So that's my answer. Where do you want to go? Like, where is this going? Because you have a more immediate need.
Well, a couple things. I mean, I talked about this actually on my podcast, but
Your podcast? Wait, where could people listen to it?
No, you don't need to listen to it, guys. But if you want to check it out, it's called Unvloggable, where I talk about things that I can't talk about in my vlog. Anyway, I talked about how you're feeling jaded and burnt out, and I think I'm just kind of feeling that too. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole journey that I've been on. When I first started, I was like, hey, it's that whole naive mindset of nothing can hurt me. I have nothing to lose. Let's try everything. And everything was so much fun because I was, daring. I was brave. I was creative and all of that. And then this year I really tried to focus on putting the steps in place to have a system that, generated sustainable money, but to figure out what that looked like and the products and the services I would sell and all of that. Like, okay, yeah, plenty of opportunity to make money as a freelancer. Didn't really like it, so I had to switch gears and try something else. And, there's Zero to YouTube Hero and all of that. And I think, just as we end 2019, I find myself just not having the same spirit I used to. That doesn't mean I don't have the same belief in myself and what I can do. But I saw this thing that Gary Vee posted that was like, "Oh, are you burnt out or just bored?"
Right.
And I really feel like I have wanted this for so long with you. Like more than us getting married, straight up the first day. Like I wanted to start a business.
Why me?
But that's like asking me why I love you.
Oh.
Like I can't even. It's just like everything from your, from how we work together to your perspective, your experience, your ideas, your creativity, like everything.
Keep saying the nice things.
All of the things, right? And so I feel like just with a few ideas that we've talked about in passing, that makes me super excited. And I don't know, I'm like itching to try to do something about that. Obviously, I'm very conscious of your pace, and this is not your full-time job. It's
right.
mine. And, we can talk about these things later, but that's where I'm feeling in terms of my vision. I think my vision has always been to create two things. One being a physical space, like a YouTube space for anyone who wants to be a content creator in the digital world. It always comes back down to share your story, spark your potential, which is the name, Share Spark Media. Utilize, educating and empower people to utilize digital media to achieve meaningful goals. Like, I still believe that. And I think it's such a natural thing because you're a teacher too that does that exact same thing.
Right.
So it would just be that, like creating a physical space of that, how big it is and what equipment is there and the classes and the coaches and how we build it out, having a job board and all of that. Like, I still want that. And then the other side of the coin is to have a live event that's annual, that is just the event version of that, where people can come and whether they need the education, the motivation, the inspiration to share whatever story that they want through podcasts, through YouTube, through Instagram, whatever, what have you. I want those two things to happen. And then I want to write a book. But that's just my personal goal. So that's like my long-term vision. That's kind of my compass.
I mean, that's why, that's why we met in the first place, is because it's literally in line to a spooky degree with the stuff. Right. Like if you read the Share Spark mission statement and then like my digital media program mission statement, they were basically the exact same thing with different words.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And so that, I think that validated both of us that, I was seeing somebody in the private sector going like, this stuff means something and has value and there's a need for it. And you were seeing someone in like public education where it's like, oh, like this has been valued enough that there's been money and resources and like taxpayer dollars put into developing it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'm just excited to, because I really think that we can go further together. Of course, I know a huge reason why you're starting an LLC is to double down on your YouTube channel and to do all of your independent things, which obviously do you, and I fully support that. But whenever you want to spend time on like a joint thing, I'm very excited too.
But this gives us the flexibility to do both, because you have 2 YouTube channels as well. I have mine, and then all the stuff like you talked about, events and coaching and classes or shared client things. We did some shared client work earlier this year, and just being able to manage that stuff better. So the flexibility of both of us working under the umbrella of an LLC would allow us to work together and independently a lot more easily and more flexibly. Flexibility? I don't know. It's late. This is our Saturday night. This is how we rage on Saturday night. So the frustrating part is that we can't really do anything until January because
we can. We
do our plan.
Of money. Yeah.
For me though, psychologically, there's something about like when something is formalized.
I know, but I'm telling you, since we're folding into a name that kind of already exists, like on paper, the financial transactions won't begin until January 1st.
Right.
But we can move stuff. Okay?
Yeah. No, I know. But once it's all just official, it just feels, I'm not talking about like in a way that makes sense or practical. I'm just talking about psychologically for me, it feels different. It's the same reason as like, you're going to live together and love each other forever. Yeah. Okay. Why do you need to get married? Well, I mean, there's practical reasons, of course, but there's also just sort of like getting engaged. Something feels different. Nothing changed really on the surface, but things feel different. So there's just kind of that element too, which I think you felt 3-4 years ago when you started doing your own thing, and now you're used to it. I haven't been there yet, so it's new to me still.
Yes.
Well, anything you want to add into that?
No.
No?
Not really.
No?
Yeah. I did. I know. Okay. I vlogged myself taking my paperwork to the county clerk.
Yeah.
It was very exciting.
That's like really exciting.
Yeah. I'm excited to do that with you.
Because
we have to do that twice because the office is right next to the marriage license.
But it turns your ambiguous like goal into a concrete thing. And that's what I love is when this thing that you want to do becomes something that exists in the real world. And that it makes it real. I think that's, not that this is sponsored by Squarespace, but I think that's their slogan is a website makes it real. And like, there's a part of that where you have an idea. I've so many URLs registered to me that don't have websites because you're just like, I have this idea, I want to do a thing. And now like making it a website or making it a URL makes it feel like now it's a real thing. How do you get an idea? It's like making a storyboard. You have an idea in your head, then you put it on a storyboard. Now it feels like a real thing.
So I have a question.
Okay.
Let's end this with this because
we also have our Gear of the Week segment. So think about, I think there's a great piece of gear you could talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is our next step in terms of the joint vision part? Because you're going to still do your YouTube stuff, but
yeah. I mean, that's just, what do I do with this stuff that's coming in? So what is our shared thing?
Yeah. Like, are we doing anything?
I'm literally asking like, what is, you asked me the question, but this is actually where I need a little bit of guidance.
I really think we should make an online course.
That is the thing. Why are online courses? So, okay. You said this was the last thing, and it can be the last thing, but we're going to dive into it a little bit.
We can have this be a separate podcast.
We can.
Probably should because.
But let's just lay the foundation. Let's lay the foundation. So, you've been preaching the values of online courses for a long time. You follow people that create a lot of them. I follow people that create a lot of them. I've not really it just hasn't been on my radar. I hear them go like, hey, don't forget my course. I have a new course coming out for this, that, and the other thing. And I just it just didn't pop into my vision. But you've seen people be very successful. You've seen people be very unsuccessful. Why, where do you think the value is in creating an online course? Because I have my answer of why I would want to do it. And I want to see if...
So the biggest thing for having an online course is that it is the closest thing to mimicking the experience of providing a one-on-one service to someone, but it's scalable in terms of you only need to build it once. but people feel like they are genuinely learning from you. It still feels, because it breaks the fourth wall. You're looking straight into the camera, so they feel like you're looking straight at them. Obviously, there's no dialogue and interaction, but you can fold that in. You can have a Facebook group, you can have coaching that's stacked on top of it, whatever. But the fact that you build it once, set it and forget it, and that thing runs, and like there's so many relatively cheap automation stuff that you can just install, and it could just go on autopilot. Like, obviously the marketing and the business development is not autopilot. You still have to do that.
Right.
But in terms of like, having people go through the course, complete the course, give you money to take it, all of that, it's all auto.
So for me, I think those that's an important business side of it. I think that for me, there's a business side of it. There's like a philosophical and a concrete side. And so as someone who's been a teacher for 10 years, the philosophical part of it is that, like, I love being a teacher is tough because a lot of times it's sort of that old proverb of like, you plant the tree whose shade you will never sit under or whatever. Like, you just don't know the effects of what you do. And so you put in all this energy, you can feel burnt out, and it can have these positive effects. You can like have all these positive impacts, but you might never know it. And fortunately, like in my position where I get to work with students year after year, a lot of times they do sort of have that emotional maturity, especially by the end of like junior, senior year, where they will communicate that to you. And, they'll write you cards, they'll say nice things, and you sort of see like, they'll say stuff that you didn't know was happening, within them, within your classroom or whatever. And they'll express it and you're like, wow, I didn't realize that's what was happening here. And that is huge. And that's always why like the end of the school year is so bittersweet, because you get so much of that. The middle of the school year, you get zero of that usually. But, and I'm fortunate enough to have really good students. And again, having them year after year, you build these relationships. The downside of that, especially with public education, is there's so much more that goes into the education than just the subject matter. And, like there's something to be said for providing like that care and service. My school specifically prides itself on like, we go out of our way to give students clothes and food and help them find shelter, like these basic necessities that go way beyond everything. And I think that's wonderful. But at the same time, as someone who's trying to impart these very specific, like technical and career related skills to students, I know that that's also not always that's immediately beneficial, and that can be huge. But in terms of preparing students for life after high school, there's not people who are just going to jump out of everywhere and be like, are you okay? Do you really need this? What you really need to do is prepare the students to go like, I have this skill set, I can market it, I can use it, I can have a plan for myself, which is probably the most important thing. Like, what is the plan? How do I execute on that plan? And, be proactive. And that's like the main thing that I want to teach students. But getting to those points is sometimes so buried in all of the other stuff. Plus, students have other classes and they're in sports and all these things. So for me, part of the appeal of an online course is you're literally getting an audience that is opting in via their wallet. Like, they're putting their money where their mouth is to go, I want to learn about this thing from you. Here's my, money, which says, here's my attention. And now, give me something in return for that. And I feel like that focus would be something I've never experienced, or I've very rarely experienced in the world of education. And so that is hugely appealing in an online course to me. I feel like having been a teacher for a number of years would help me do a good online course. And then, like you said, the scalability, like despite what many teachers say, I don't have any complaints about salary or benefits. I think for all the jadedness, I have an awesome schedule. I have great pay and great benefits. No complaints from me there. But it is just sort of limited. Like right now, where I'm at on our pay scale, I get a little bump up every year. But after a few more years, that stops. You just kind of cap out, and then you literally just make no more money. You just sort of, this is the amount I make to the penny every single year forever. Whereas, starting a business, taking things in your own hands, like you said, it's infinitely scalable. So you can, there's no limit to the top or the bottom, really. Like, you can go, into debt and make no money on a thing, or the sky is the limit and there's no cap to what you can do too. And so those things, to me, make an online course very appealing, especially because an online course doesn't have to be it. You know, you don't have to pack a 4-year college education into it. Like
You shouldn't.
Yeah, you really shouldn't. No one's going to finish it. So you really should kind of focus, break things down into small chunks, and people almost like a la carte pick what they want and then compile it all together. And that, I think that just makes things so simple, focused, and versatile I love it.
What are you doing?
I'm plugging a thing in.
Tom's plugging a thing in.
Sorry about that. I was trying to do that as I thought.
You just like stopped.
Well, I was done with my thought, and I was like, maybe she'll like have something to say to this, and then you were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "No." So, those are the reasons I think it would be worth having one or multiple episodes of an online course, and it's tricky because that is like. When I met you, your thing was everybody start a vlog, and I feel like that has evolved into start a course.
Heck yes. Because I mean, like, I can go on and on. I really think that, I really can go on and on.
So that's probably something
we should save for another day.
It's probably something worth diving into, but how long is it going to take us to put a course? How long would it take me? Because we talked earlier about you helping me put together a course.
I'm laughing because I know perfectionism is going to get in the way. But realistically, like you have winter break coming up.
Yes, in just a couple weeks.
If you wanted to buckle down and, let's do like 3 full days on this, I would say 2 months.
To create a course?
Yeah. I mean, I think it could be done in a month. I've done it in a month. But I think to have it be at the polish and level that you want, you could start selling now because you don't even need a course to start selling a course.
Well, I mean, I'd feel better about having something.
You should pre-sell. You should definitely
pre-sell. But pre-sell after I know what it is. I know, I understand this. Right now, I'd be like, hey, buy my course. I'll make one. It's going to be good, I guess. But like,
obviously,
having a course written out just because the videos aren't edited or whatever, fine. I'm cool with that. I know that'll be good. But I need I need the content and the foundation to be there.
You need to know what the course is going to be.
Yeah. But how could I even sell it otherwise?
Right. But I'm just saying, like, you don't have to wait until you're done.
Right. So, something fell down. I'm really excited about that. And that'll be like, talked about products. That'll be a good thing to kind of go in that direction with. That's still super in line with like literally the career that I've had for the past decade. Yeah. So
I mean, you were made to do this. I didn't even know it was a thing that you could do.
And that's the whole. It's so frustrating. There's so many things you see on the internet where you're like, wow, look at these people with YouTube channels and starting a course. I wish I could do that. And it's like literally you can. So we'll get into the process of that later.
What is happening here?
In the meantime, now you might notice I've got some sweet beats here, because I'm trying to add a little bit of polish to signify that we're in a different portion of the show. And right now, we're in Gear of the Week. So, Heather, do you have a piece of gear that you would like to talk about that
is this copyright-free music?
Yes.
Oh, it is? Wow. I didn't know they just had these streaming.
Live, 24/7.
It's copyright-free?
Eventually, I want to make my own segment bumpers, but I don't have that yet, so we're just...
Is this the one with the raccoon on the bed?
Yeah, he's the cutest.
And that's copyright free.
Yes, yeah, it's great. We use it on our broadcast all the time. So, Gear of the Week.
Sorry, yes.
Tell me about it.
The Switchpod. It's a tripod that is super light for your camera. Tom got it for me as a gift, and it was made by vloggers. It was made post YouTube vlog era and tested out by vloggers. So it's I used it for the first time officially today, actually vlogging, and it was amazing. I didn't even it was night and day difference.
So it's the alternative to the Joby Gorillapod, which you've been using for a few years.
Yeah, which is like super signature
it's sort
to
of
vloggers. Yeah,
right. But the Gorillapod wasn't even made for the Gorillapod as a.
Well, for some reason, I got the extra large one. Like I just clicked on the link that Casey had,
right?
And it was like we saw someone with a DSLR that had a smaller Joby tripod.
Right. So the Gorillapod came out for DSLRs 10 or 15 years ago, and the whole point was it has like these legs on it. It's a small tripod. The legs look like
they're flexible.
They're flexible. They look like they're really strong. It's almost like knuckles, and you can bend them around a tree, a rail, mount your cameras in all these places. It's really versatile. And then when Casey Neistat did his daily vlog a few years ago, after a while, he kept saying he wanted it to look like the camera was just following him around, and like selfie sticks weren't strong enough and monopods weren't flexible enough. And so he started using Gorillapods for that, because you could set them up, you could carry them, you could kind of get the camera a little further away from you. And then because he was just so influential and did it for so long, everybody was like, if I'm vlogging or doing YouTube, I need a Gorillapod. And I have a pile of them in my classroom because they are so versatile. And as soon as kids see them, they're always like, oh, that's what YouTubers use. It's a photography tool from years ago, but yes, it's what YouTubers use. But they're not made for that. It's really not what they're made for. And so a lot of people have complaints. They're big, they're heavy, sometimes they're unstable. The Switchpod is literally like, what if this thing were made for what people are using it for? And it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it like snaps open so you can set it down really quick. It's just so, I wish I had it before, but oh well, it's okay.
It's pretty amazing. It's got a lot of magnets. And the people that made it, like, they did like 9 iterations of it or something. Actually, it's not some cheap thing that you just pre-made, manufactured wherever. Like, they actually built it from scratch, got it manufactured from scratch. It's really cool.
Yeah, and Tom is like a subscriber of one of the
both
founders.
of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Caleb Wojcik and
Pat
Flynn. And and there's a couple other people that are sort of like whatever, but they're all super cool. We met them at VidCon. They were so nice. Well, not Pat, but the other ones. So my gear of the week is something that I didn't expect to like, and I'm glad it lived up to the hype, which is the Peter McKinnon PolarPro neutral density filter. If you use cameras, if you use lenses, if you watch my channel, ND filters, hugely important because they're basically like sunglasses for your camera, for your lens. And what that does is it lets you film in bright light at wider apertures and lower shutter speeds. So it basically means even outdoors, even under bright settings, you can get natural looking movement, and you can get that beautiful shallow depth of field look where you have like a blurry background and a sharp subject. If you don't have these filters, too much light goes into your camera with those settings, and everything just looks completely blown out and bright white. And I've been using a really cheap one that costs like $30 for years. And now I finally have access to the PolarPro Peter McKinnon one, which is more expensive. It's like a couple $100. And I was kind of like, okay, this is getting hyped up a little bit. And I saw the reviews when it came out, and then I used it myself, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, because camera lenses are really expensive. You throw this thing on the front of your camera lens, and it's equal to the quality of your lens. My cheap little filter kind of got the job done, but it was also like, hey, you spent a bunch of money on this lens, let's just put a bunch of Vaseline on the front of it. And it kind of killed the image quality. So I've been loving this thing, and I just use it every chance I can get. It's amazing. I have a video about it. It's coming out soon, so that might be out by the time you're listening to this, but I highly recommend the PolarPro Peter McKinnon neutral density filters. They come in 2 varieties, a 2 to 5 stop version, a 6 to 9 stop version, basically for how dark you want it to be. I have the 6 to 9 stop one because I film at really wide apertures, and I needed it to be as dark as it could get. So that is my gear of the week recommendation. With that being said, Heather, where can people find you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Heather Just Great, but I did just upload a vlog today, so you can go check out my vlog on YouTube, Heather Just Great. A
vlog. Very, very cool. And of course, I am at SoDarnTom on Twitter and Instagram, and youtube.com/The Enthusiasm Project. I would really like to hear from you, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast. Feedback, always appreciated. Until next time, have a great rest of your week. Bye.